Hello everyone, welcome on in. It is a new week here on the Betting Weekly Dojo. I'm Nigel Seeley and joining me to give you some tips in the world of betting and look back what was a crazy night over at the Augusta is my good friend and co-host of the dojo. It is professional gambler Neil Channing. Your poster behind there's Kiss. I always said it was Kiss, the pop group, but it's not. We know that. But what a crazy night we had last night at the golf.
It was crazy, yeah. It was crazy. I mean, it was great, wasn't it? I've had a few people message me and say, "Oh, God, you were against Rory. You must be, you must have, done badly." I wasn't like massively against Rory. I wasn't kind of laying him at 6-1. I just felt like at that price, he was a bit skinny, really. I mean, he was 9-1 about 6 weeks ago to win a much weaker tournament than that. But I mean, obviously he came in great form, and going into last night, I actually thought he was quite good value yesterday afternoon. He traded minus $1.50 on exchanges, and I was surprised. I thought he'd be nearer to minus 225 really, but of course he double bogeyed the first, which was incredible, really, and that sort of just suddenly made it all very interesting. He lost favoritism a little bit after that. And I think he touched about 7-4, so about 7-4, and then of course after that, I mean, there was just that amazing shot to set him up for eagle, and I thought, oh well, that's definitely over now. And he traded, I think he traded minus 1400. And then, of course, we went to a playoff. Unbelievable. It was incredible. It was a great sport. I mean, from my point of view, from a tournament, the whole thing was exhausting. I feel like I did a lot of my bets in betting shops this week, and I feel like I walked, I was doing like 10 or 15,000 steps every day, getting all the bets on. And if you've experienced UK betting shops, it turns out that the staff that work in UK betting shops are not experts on golf. If you ask them for the Masters, they're not 100% sure what sport you're looking for, and you tend to get pushed onto the self-service terminals. But if you can get better prices sometimes over the counter. So I was doing quite a lot of schmoozing betting shop staff, getting them to look up prices for me and trying to bet on 18-hole matches and stuff. I actually went a bit crazy on 3 balls and 18-hole matches this week. So it was a very up and down week. I think I won 3 of the 4 days, but I definitely had some big swings. There were a couple of matches that went down to the 18th, and I was kind of I did some parlays on Thursday and Friday, and both days I was let down by one match for telephone numbers. So it was a quite exciting tournament for me.
You said you walked a lot of miles. I've just sort of rearranged some words for a famous song. I would walk 500 miles and I will walk 500 more to get 10 places at the Masters. So I would walk 500 more. That's what Neil Channing has to do to get his bets
12
on him.
Places.
12 places at the Masters
as well. I had to really sweat because Scheffler I preferred to do. I think we spoke about that last week, when you should go for the extra places and when you should look for the price. And Scheffler, I decided I wanted the 5-1, but I was happy to just have 8 places because I felt like he was less likely to come 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th than a player like Connors. And Connors, I took 12 places and took a considerably worse price. And at one stage I was thinking, I think with about 5 holes to play, Scheffler was kind of 9th, and Connors was kind of 11th or something. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to lose both of these by 1 place. And Morikawa bogeyed the 17th, otherwise he would have squeaked into the 12th. That was pretty annoying. But the extra places, I mean, certainly make it a good value tournament. And if you look at the people that finished on the leaderboard, it wasn't impossible to find them, was it? Really, in terms of the places. You had Patrick Reed. He's definitely someone that's done well in this tournament in the past. And yeah, just people squeaked in. I mean, Rahm almost got in the money, didn't he? And he was never in the tournament really. Obviously, Scheffler, that he was never really outside of the frame. And of course, DeChambeau, he had a terrible last round. But if you've backed him each way, you still got the money. And players like Xander Schauffele, not impossible to find. But I guess the bookies will be pleased they got Rahm out of the frame. That was huge for them. Morikawa out of the frame was probably big for them. But generally speaking, it would have been a disaster result for English bookmakers with Rory McIlroy winning. So popular.
I think it would have been a disastrous result for I think it would have been a disastrous result for bookmakers all across the world, because Rory McIlroy would have been a popular selection. I mean, on my timeline this morning is full of American handicappers, American sports judges, sports judges on people I respect, who all bet Rory McIlroy. And the one thing that surprised me massively yesterday, I mean, and I'm no real expert on golf, but I do like the Masters. But I must admit, can I just tell you, I've got to hold my hands up and admit this. I travelled back from Monte Carlo. I did 2 podcasts with Sean, and I did a podcast with Rory Giovanni on the tennis. We waited ages and ages and ages for the odds to come out because of the draw. We had to go without the outright market, and by 9 o'clock, I was absolutely shattered. I fell asleep. I didn't know what happened until this morning.
Well, when I went to bed, you need to watch it back this morning, this afternoon, because it was. Well, I wish
I didn't know the result. I wish I didn't know the result. Yeah. But I reckon it's just a bad. It must be a terrible result for world bookmakers, because one thing I did notice, and this is I couldn't believe it when Rory made the birdie to regain the lead off DeChambeau. Obviously, it was a crazy first 4 holes. I mean, he's a 2-shot lead. Then he's level. Then he's 1 behind. And then after 5 holes, he's 3 clear again. When he went back in the lead, the cheer in America for Rory was incredible. And I know that DeChambeau is a kind of a Marmite type character, but that's an American up against a European in the Masters. And then I just realised here, you know what? There's a lot of people who have got betting slips on Rory McIlroy, not only in the UK but across America as well.
But also, I think you're right. I mean, both Reed and DeChambeau are pretty Marmite, aren't they? And Americans wouldn't. They're not exactly the sort of wholesome American heroes, are they? That people want to get behind. Although I did see, DeChambeau's a bit of a Trump supporter, so I saw people sort of trying to say, that there was a split in the crowd, between the kind of Trump supporters and non-Trump supporters when they supported DeChambeau. I said, that seems a bit nonsense to me. I can't believe
carrying your money. I don't care. I think if he's carrying your money, it doesn't really matter what he does. But I mean, in terms of the Bet Rivers handle, obviously it would have been one of the biggest betting turnover of golf events. Well, they played the first 7, and I reckon it was a bit of a disaster because obviously, in the 7 places, Rory win it, popular across the globe. Scheffler getting in the top 7, DeChambeau getting in the top 7
as well.
Aberg as well. I mean, I can't see. I mean, you've got people like Zach Johnson and Jason Day coming in for the bookies who paid the 10, who sort of saved them a little bit, because I don't think many people would have bet them. But the top 7, Im as well was another popular player who's going to do well in majors as well this year. So I got a sneaky feeling, and we'll find out on Betting Weekly Live today. But
obviously Rose taking a place, he would have been pretty much a Skinner. Although he's got an amazing record for leading in the first round. I'd imagine bookmakers might have actually lost on the first round leader, even though he was such an upset, because I think it was something like the 4th time he's led the first round I can't remember now. I'm sure I had that at my fingertips before. I've forgotten now, but he's definitely led the first round a few times, and he would have been kind of 50-1 to lead the first round.
80-1 he was. He was 80-1 to lead the first round.
Wow. Yeah, it's not a market I really look at because it's less competitive than the outright, and the place terms are not so good. But I mean, I guess if you are looking at it, you're thinking about the weather angle if there's a morning or afternoon advantage, and you're thinking about people that are traditional fast starters, and he definitely ticked the latter box. But yeah, no, on balance, I think you're right. I think firms probably lost on it, but I think a lot of firms consider that to be one of their acquisition events of the year. It's the first major of the year. Get the golf punters signed up and keep them for the whole year. We've got another big tournament next week. It's not like the PGA suddenly disappears. And also, funnily enough, they don't put on kind of a rubbish tournament the week after the Masters. It's they have a good tournament this week, and then the schedule of the majors is kind of crammed in now as well. It doesn't drag on quite so long. So before long we'll have the US Open and the US PGA, and I guess they'll keep those punters, and they see it as an acquisition tool. But I think it was an expensive one this week. It probably cost them a bit of money.
Very much an expensive one. Just to let you know, producer John has sent me a message 5 times. Justin Rose led after round 1 at the US Masters, and you get an 80-1. What about horses for courses is definitely the name for Justin Rose in here. I mean, talking of in-running betting, I mean, obviously a lot of Americans are getting used to in-running betting. It's something new. Obviously, it's been around for a few years now, 3 years. But, I mean, we've had some wild in-betting shifts, for many, many years in golf. But, I mean, I wasn't following it religiously, obviously, because I fell asleep. But I'm just looking at the way the back 9 played out. There must have been some huge swings on the in running at especially on the back 9. You mentioned that when he had that eagle putt, he traded like 4.
That last putt to win it. I mean, I don't know how long that putt was. What do you reckon? You must have watched it a few times now.
I wouldn't have a clue. I'm not that I haven't watched it. I've watched it. I think I've watched it
maybe
once.
A 2-foot putt.
I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah. What price do you think you could bet him to win at that stage? And bear in mind, if he misses it, he's still in the playoff. He's still, 60% to win, even if he misses.
Well, I mean, just on a normal first round, he'd probably be 50 on to hit it, but 33-1 on or something. But we're going by what he did in the 3 holes before and the nerves he was showing, I reckon 12 on. 10 on?
Yeah, he was like 1 to 9, 1 to 10, minus 900, minus 1,000. And don't forget, that's not just to make the putt. If he misses, you've still got a live runner. They just go and play another hole, and he's 60% to win. So I don't know. I didn't bet that because I was worried about I was watching it. I was watching the American coverage rather than the British. I can't stand the English commentators. So my pictures were slightly slower, I think, and I was a bit worried that I'd click it and then suddenly it would have already happened. But it did seem a bit of it was a bit of a tiddler, that putt to bet at that point.
But I suppose well, I mean, we spoke about it and we put the little video highlight up on the he is a player that I think most bettors last night knew that there was going to be a stage where he was going to be a bit ropey, a bit flaky. He's a trading superstar for everybody, isn't he? I mean, he must be the player that goes in and out. I mean, Phil Mickelson used to be a little bit like that. He could hit an 8 and then hit holding 1 and then hit an eagle, then hit a double bogey. Rory's a little bit like that. And I suppose there must be this kind of tendency where people have got anti-post positions on him, future positions, and they just probably can't take it. Can't take anymore what they've gone through for 4.5 hours. And they said, give me the money, I'll give you 10 on, I'll give you the 10 on. That must have been what happened there last night. People just thought we can't put their ticker through another 25 minutes of this.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what did you think? I don't know whether you sound like you weren't awake at the start of the playoff, but at the start of the playoff, the prices were in the region of 4 to 6 and 6 to 4, so 60%, 40%. But then they both hit the fairway with their first shot, and not really anything much happened. And suddenly it was nearer to 70-30 or 68-32. I don't know. I was forced to bet Rose in the playoff a little bit just because I thought, that just seemed like a slight overreaction, really.
He's playing against 70,000 people, isn't he, really? No, there's not many, apart from his family, there's not many people who wanted Justin Rose to win that tournament.
I mean, it's incredible, though, really. He's, people talk about Rory McIlroy and the hurt that the Masters has caused him and the emotional, 2011 was a long time ago, and he had that meltdown and shot 80 in the final round. But when you look at Justin Rose, twice he's had his half an arm in the sleeve of the green jacket. He's lost at a playoff twice now for the Masters, which is pretty painful, I should think. And at his age, you have to feel like he might struggle to get another chance like that, really.
Mm. Mm. He keeps getting first round leader, though. That's one thing we can say for him.
We're back in next year, first round leader.
I think the thing is with me, the Masters sort of sailed by because I was in the south of France, watching the tennis. Had a good week out there. 10 bets on the Instagram account, 10 winners. Perfect 10 from Seeley out in France. What about that?
I did see you seem to be having fun. And you had a big price guy in the semi-final.
And he got to the final, Lorenzo Massetti got to the final.
He traded
He traded minus 110 in the final when he took the first set against Alcaraz, and then I got an aeroplane, and when I landed, it was 6-love, 6-1. The other way, which wasn't nice to be landing back with. But I mean, it was a good week. So I was really, really all over the tennis, watching the tennis, having bets on tennis. That the Masters sort of sailed by. So I didn't really see, it was hardly any. I didn't see any coverage on the French television. I was flicking through trying to find stuff, but where I was staying, it didn't have anything like that. No Sky Sports, and I was obviously with the missus, which meant we couldn't go to any sports bar to watch football or golf, which was a bit disappointing. We had to go.
She just doesn't want to go to sports bars to watch soccer.
Well, I did take. We went. She went to this really nice Michelin-star restaurant, but it was very reasonable in terms of price money. But I had to go to these nice restaurants.
And you also put the soccer on.
No, I just said, why don't we have a little drink in this little bar before we go to the restaurant? And so I walked into the bar. She walked in, and basically there was like a bar and a guy sort of a sweet stand, and a guy selling tobacco. And there was a little bar, I'm sitting in the corner, and I said, can I have a nice glass of rosé and a beer, please? He went, yeah, no problem. She looked at me and said, why is everybody in here all like groups of men? There's like 10 men. I said, I've got no idea. And I went to the toilet, and there were some fixed odds betting terminals. It was a French betting shop, which I actually did not know we were going into. It just by chance, because I thought we were a bit early for our meal, so we said we were going here. And then I realised it was a betting shop, so I decided to have a couple of bets on the sport to give me some interest. And then she drank up her drink very quickly and wanted to get out as quickly as she possibly could. It was a bit lucky. Just off by chance, walked straight in, betting shop, fixed odds betting terms, bit of racing in the car. I think it's a bit odd. Why are they betting horse racing? And they were all watching the football as well at the same time. But she was quite impressed by that. But we are in this sort of transition period. I did say to you last week, when the Monaco tennis comes in, I always said the weather's getting good and you feel like you're changing. Everything seems to be winding down now, doesn't it? We've just had the college basketball winding down. We've had the football season, the Premier League is winding down. We've had the American hardcourt season, and we're in this sort of strange period of sports betting where there's a shift now to summer sports. There's a shift now to conditioning. There's a shift from one sort of part of a sport, in terms of surface. It just changed the sort of summer feel. How do you sort of cope with that from a betting perspective? Do you sort of write off the first couple of tournaments, write off the first couple of matches, and see the form on the new style of stuff, or do we keep going? I mean, it's a sort of shifting now. New sports are coming in. Summer sports are here. We haven't got a World Cup, we haven't got a bit Olympics this year, but we've got the club championship, a new tournament in the world of football as well. So it's a bit of a strange time, isn't it?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, my main kind of day-to-day stuff is horse racing, and horse racing in the UK is either over the jumps or on the flat. And they don't really have a clear beginning and end of the season, which I find really annoying and one of the most stupid things about English horse racing. So we had the Grand National.
What is the reason for that? What is the reasoning for that, Neil?
Because all the racecourses are independent, and they're all trying to kind of get their own little moment in the sun. So Doncaster are always very proud of the fact that they start the flat season, and they have a couple of big races on the flat, but they're held, so early. They're held before the Grand National. I just think that's crazy, really. You're trying to say, the flat started, and you've still got the whole of the Grand National meeting, one of the biggest meetings of the year on the jumps. I think from the narrative point of view and in terms of the media on the sport, I just think it's a bit of a nonsense, really. But, horse racing is such a traditional sport. I suppose that will never change. I mean, I guess if I was running it, I would say, we carry on. We bring the jumps forward a little bit. It's kind of mad that they're having to water like crazy on tracks so that they can safely hold jumps racing in May. And certainly in April, but it'll probably, it slightly runs towards the end of April. And, we haven't had any rain for ages. And yet we started the flat season kind of 3 weeks ago. And there's a flat meeting this week at Newmarket, which people consider to be the kind of proper start of the flat season. And that starts tomorrow. Why don't they just make that the start of the season, and have a break between the two? Give the jockeys a break, give the stable staff a break. I don't know. Of course, they're all self-employed people.
But do you think that's a lot to do with do you think that's also a lot to do with the introduction of all-weather racing now? That all weather's
there's a bit of that. I mean, obviously we have flat racing on artificial surfaces throughout the year. And we also have summer jumping now. There are some courses that, are close to kind of seaside holiday destinations where they want to have jumps racing in the summer and attract the tourists along. And they have generally a lower class of horse, different from the kind of horses that will run at Cheltenham and Aintree. And they have to water the tracks a lot. But, I mean, that seems to go on longer than ever. That used to be a kind of 3 or 4 week thing. And now it's a kind of 3 month thing. I don't know. The whole thing's a bit weird. But anyway, back to your original question, which is, how do you kind of react to that? I find it quite a difficult period. I think that, it's hard to get your head round. You're looking in the form book at horses on the jumps and saying, well, this one's out of form and this one's in form. And, this one's, I expect to run well but the conditions is all important, the ground conditions. And there are some horses that, kind of, they always kind of, it's a bit of a cliche, but they say, oh, this is a spring horse, it comes alive in the spring. And often it's because of ground conditions. But some horses, just naturally do that. And obviously the trainers, they can't keep their horses. The jump season really kind of gets going in October. A horse that's been running in October, November, December is not going to be running as well in April. Horses that have had a bit of a break or maybe haven't had a long season, haven't raced too many times, have a freshness advantage. So that's quite tricky. And on the flat, the thing I like about horse racing as a betting medium is I think of it as a puzzle. It's like doing a crossword for me. You have a lot of information and you have to try and give an importance to level to the information. And which of the factors do you consider to be the most important? The problem with racing in the early part of the season on the flat is that some people have more knowledge than you. I kind of half fancied a horse on Saturday, and I noticed there was a futures market on the race, and it had been back from 10s into 6s. But then on the morning, it seemed to be kind of about 12 to 1, and I thought, well, normally my thinking would be, well, that's good. I can, maybe the early futures reaction was an overreaction and the market's corrected itself and now I'm getting a value price. But my immediate thought was, well, someone obviously knows more than me. There must be, this horse is probably not really fit or, it's going to run an okay race without winning. Anyway, I absolutely bolted up and I was kind of slightly annoyed after the race. But I think from my mind point of view, from my mental well-being, I prefer just not to play those guessing games. You could argue that I should have had a guess because it wasn't like I was guessing at plus 250. I was guessing at plus 1100. But I just would rather not guess. So I tend to be a watcher at this time of the season. I did have some bets on Saturday on the horses, but I had way less than usual, and I watched a lot of races. And this week at Newmarket, I'll watch a lot of races, and I'll definitely be playing smaller. The other thing is, of course, coming off of a big event like the Masters, if you've had a terrible event, it's tempting to go and try and find bets to, try and win your money back if you're in a hole. And if you've had a great event and you've been betting big, and I was betting a lot bigger over the last weekend than I would do on a day to day. it's easy to think, well, that's fun, isn't it? I'm in the habit of, betting considerably bigger. Let me find some other things to take a swing at. But a Monday or a Tuesday, 2 days after the Masters, there may not be much that you want to have an absolute lump on, and actually I would struggle to get those kind of big bets on smaller events. So I'll probably have a bit of a breather. I looked in the diary. There's not much going on in the next couple of weeks. I'm not saying I'll have a holiday. I consider my whole life to be a holiday, really. But I'll definitely take a bit of a pull. I won't be playing quite so big for the next couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to the World Snooker Championships coming up. I'll get involved in that. But I'll probably, there's a few sports where things are changing in America. Obviously, the college basketball's finished. There's an immediate switch from people to go into the NBA. The NBA has been rolling on for months now, but suddenly the handle on the NBA goes right up because everyone's really into basketball betting. And the first kind of 20 NBA games post March Madness, have huge turnover because it's all that people, obviously the baseball started now as well, but baseball is such a kind of dying sport from a gambling point of view and from a TV coverage point of view. I think people do try and sort of leap into that, and that's a new season, and that's kind of hard to weigh up. Motor racing, they've got a new season. There's all rule changes.
Now you're bringing. Oh,
well, I don't. That's not a sport I particularly bet on. Yeah, that isn't a sport I particularly bet on. But it would be a good example of a sport where the season starts and there's massive changes from the previous season. Every year they change the rules, and different competitors can get a different advantage, and it's quite hard to know.
The only way you are going to
out.
make motor racing interesting is if you do what I say. 18 races, 18 cars, 18 drivers, each driver drives a different car every race.
Yeah, that would no. What you should do
then you'll see who the best driver in the world would be.
It's make it like a triathlon. They start off running, and they have to run a lap round the track. And then once they've run a lap round, they just jump. The first guy gets to jump in the first car. The cars are all waiting. So the faster you run as to, which car you get, then that would really randomise the cars. That's how it should work.
This is not a stag do in Blackpool. This is the world. But my point, this is the world.
Much as I don't really like motor racing very much, in terms of betting and to illustrate the point, it's a perfect example of a sport where the transitionary period at the start of the season is very tricky, and it can present you with an advantage if you spot something quickly that other people haven't spotted. But generally, I think it's quite, I like to have a lot of information in front of me to make my decisions. And if I feel like, there are people in the market that have inside information, or I don't really understand this deluge of new information and I want time to think about it, I tend to not get too involved. So, when you talk about the tennis and you're changing surfaces, that's a whole kind of, randomizing factor and a load of new information to weigh up. I don't know, do you consider that to be an opportunity or a threat?
Well, I think it's an opportunity because I tell you why it's different for me. I mean, you're absolutely right with the flat racing going from jump racing. You're absolutely right in terms of a new season starting. So, say for example, the motor racing starts. We don't know how fast the cars are. You see them in practice. You don't know which driver's going to be good. All these kind of factors. After 3 or 4 races, you will understand that. And I think it's really very careful to place wagers. I think you should keep your money in your pocket until race 4, race 5, race 6, something like that. Exactly the same for flat racing. You see a horse there, you're worried about it. It's a 2-year-old. You don't know what the unraced 2-year-old's going to be like in the same race. So you think to yourself, hang on a minute, I'm going to wait until you see these horses run twice. And we know the ground makes such a big difference on flat racing. Good ground, good horses win. There's various different things in it. I think, again, definitely keep your money. Start of the soccer season. I mean, I remember speaking to a guy many years ago. He said he doesn't have one bet until November. And I think if I kept to that advice and just did not have a bet in August and September, then I would make a lot more money than they would in the Premier League or in the Football League. I'm usually down about 15 units going into September, without a doubt, because especially in lower English football leagues, you need the form to do it. But the trouble is, you can't when you run a tipping site, you can't say we're not having a bet till November. It's quite difficult. But if you're a professional gambler or a guy betting on football, I would say with tennis it's slightly different because there's certain players who come out for this time of year. We know the players that if you look at the draw for a clay court tournament this week, every one of them we know. We've got form of them for 6 years. It's not like an unraced horse. We know the ones that can play on the clay. We know the ones that can't play on the clay. We know the ones that can play on the clay. We know the difference of the clay. We know there's heavy clay. We know soft clay. We know indoor clay this week. So I class it as an opportunity because the market is still looking at the players, looking at their hard court form, thinking, they haven't won in 10. They're out of form. They're dressed out of form. They haven't won in 10 because they're playing on a surface that they just don't feel comfortable with. Now, in a slow European hardcore event, you can get 3-1 about someone who I make a 7-4 shot, 3-1 or plus 175. I think there's value. So I think there's an opportunity in tennis. And where I find the best opportunities in tennis, and this is where I've sort of like look at futures, I love it where you get a player that you look at who is playing exceptionally well on a clay court. So players who you don't.
You mean on their wrong surface?
On their wrong surface, and you look at them and think, hang on a minute, no one's looking at Wimbledon, but that bloke there has just produced a win there, and that means he's in great form. And there was a couple of people who I thought at the weekend in Monte Carlo, Matteo Berrettini, former Wimbledon finalist, beat the number 1 seed Alexander Zverev. He got beat the next round against Musetti, but he was expected to lose that. The market shifted massively for the Musetti match. But the fact he's beat the number 1 seed and in a tournament he's never had a win and had a really, really big win bodes really, really well for Wimbledon. And he was 40-1 to win Wimbledon. I don't think he's that anymore with BetRivers, but he was 40-1. Alex de Minaur as well, the Aussie, who's much suited more to grass, reached the semi-finals and should have got the final in Australia. That's a great indication that he's looking good for Wimbledon. And the same, you'll be looking at this week and you'll be seeing players. He's doing well. He should have won that, but the market doesn't change. So the change of surfaces, I'm always one step ahead of them on the next surface.
You said several smart things there actually, but I think the smartest thing you said there was the reason that you can do well out of this change is because the market is not anticipating it or is not anticipating it enough. I mean, for me, I would kind of anticipate that the tennis market would overrate people on their favourite surface rather than underrate them. That generally speaking, everybody that watches tennis when Wimbledon comes around knows who the serve and volleyers are and who the clay court players are and knows which ones you want to be with and which ones to be against. But it sounds from what you're saying like you don't believe that the market is over factoring in form on the wrong surface and not considering enough the fact that someone who's apparently, inverted commas, out of form because they've been playing in the previous season, the clay court season, and now that it's obvious they're going to improve for their specialist surface, and the market doesn't anticipate that enough, in your opinion.
100%, and also this particular player, Berrettini, is a player that struggled with injuries, and the fact that he can go long 3 sets on clay, the most testing surface of the lot, is a good indication that he's fit. I'm looking at the odds here. Berrettini is still 40-1 to win Wimbledon. I think that's a tremendous bet. You've got Yannick Sinner as a favourite, plus 150. Carlos Alcaraz is 2-1. You've got Novak Djokovic at plus 550. Now, Novak Djokovic is in dreadful form. I mean, absolutely dreadful form. The BetRivers are the best price at plus 550. Some of them are plus 350. Well, if Berrettini played Novak Djokovic, it wouldn't be far off pick him, I think, if it went down to Djokovic would be slight favourite, but not much. Jack Draper 8-1. Alexander Zverev, the guy he beat, 12-1. He's 40. Zverev is no good on.
And is it Medvedev, 2 places on the tennis at the moment? Two
places. I mean,
until you've seen the draw and with a quite a sort of wide open betting market,
I believe if he shows that. No, you well, because Sinner and Alcaraz are going to be on number 1 or 2 whoever you're going to play. It's not like there's one of them going to be one side and the other one being the other side. I think that the fact that you've got two players there who are going to be 1 and 2 seeds, I would expect. I just think that Berrettini, what we've seen there at 40-1 to Wimbledon is a bet for anybody. At this moment in time, I would probably, if he continues that form, I think he's the fourth or fifth best grass court player in the world. He's the same price as Nick Kyrgios. I mean, come on, Nick Kyrgios. I mean, Nick Kyrgios, he's not going to be doing anything at Wimbledon. But they're where I like to see value. When I look at players who are doing well on conditions where they're not expected to do well, and looking up, and the market doesn't shift. So I look at them as an opportunity. And one thing I was going to say to you, why is baseball diminishing in interest in betting? What's going on with the baseball?
Well, I just think, I guess it's the way society's going. It's a sport that takes a long time, isn't it? It's, it's kind of the American equivalent of cricket. And in cricket, test matches and county championship matches that last, 3 to 5 days, have basically, test matches maybe had a bit of a resurgence, but they did kind of die, and they had to kind of
That's because they don't last
cricket.
5 days anymore. That's right.
Yeah. They had to reinvent cricket and come up with a kind of new method of doing cricket, which was obviously the T20, where they just bowl 20 overs each side, and it's done in about 2 hours. I guess baseball just kind of goes on too long for most people. And from a betting point of view as well, generally speaking, your bets are either, it's kind of 3 markets, isn't it? It's the match odds, just to win the game, where you get a lot of -200, -225 favourites, and sometimes you get, -300 favourites. So then people play the run line, effectively the handicap. Or you can play the total, but I kind of feel like people don't want to bet big odds on. They don't mind doing a string of odds on chances in a parlay, but I don't know. I'm not sure why baseball has died, but I'm guessing it's that basketball's it's a much quicker hit, isn't it? Really. And the players are better paid in basketball. They're more household names. It's more social media. The prop betting and stuff is a lot more popular, I think, on basketball than it is on baseball.
I didn't ask you as well. How did you end up in profit at the Masters, or was it?
I did. I did. Sort of. Yeah, my outright.
What was the main Connors?
Well, my outright bets, I ended up, I bet 5 guys each way, and I got 2 in the frame, which was a small loss on the outright. But I had quite a big bet on Connors to be top Canadian, and that won at even money. I found a few other things like that, but generally it was on the day to day. I bet yesterday I bet 10 matches on the 18 holers. 2 were quite tiny bets, really. And they both lost. But of the other 8, I went 6 and 2. Sorry, 5 and 3. 5 and 3. But I did them with where ties lose. I could have done the tie no bet, and I chose to go with the ties lose. And I had 4 bets that were way bigger than the others, and 2 of them were ties. The other 2 won. That was kind of frustrating. I kind of broke even yesterday over the 10 bets, but I think I made a smidge, but not very much. But Thursday and Friday was really good.
I had 1 bet on the Masters, and because I just wasn't around, I bet Morikawa each way, first 12, finished 14th.
He was quite frustrating. He bogeyed the 17th. Otherwise,
I didn't know that until you said. Because I didn't watch it until you said.
Well, 17th was quite a hard hole, but I think you're only about 8% to birdie it. So probably you're most of the time you're going to par it or bogey it. But yeah, I mean, it's not. Most people were parring it, and they parred 18. Yeah, it was painful, really. He never really got in it. He was always just kind of hanging in there. I was a bit like Scheffler, really, in some ways. Scheffler never ever really looked like he was playing well or he was going to win the tournament, and he still come fourth. I mean, it shows what a great player he is, really. He did get a bit lucky. I mean, he held a couple of massive putts and chipped in one time. And that probably helped a fair bit. But it was a great tournament. I loved it.
Just one thing before we leave the golf aside and wrap up this week. The US, the golf, I think the next tournament's at the USPGA Championship, isn't it? Is that the next one?
The next major,
yeah. And that is at Quail Hollow. Now, Quail Hollow is a place where Rory has got an excellent record. The Open Championship this year is at Portrush, where Rory is from. He's now got that off his shoulders.
Yeah.
The fact he's won the green jacket, the fact he's done it.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? And Scheffler's not playing brilliantly. I mean, we used to have a Tiger Woods dominant era where in some of these majors he'd be going off close to kind of 2-1. I don't think Rory can be that short, but it is interesting. I mean, I guess he will be kind of 4-1 region to win these tournaments, or some of these tournaments now. Yeah. Obviously, the PGA you get a lot more runners than the Masters, but a lot of them are people that can't really win. It's interesting. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to those already.
And my favourite betting subject as well, obviously the people in America will not know this subject, but the guys in England will know. Sports Personality of the Year, which yesterday Rory McIlroy was 3-1 to win the BBC Sports Personality of the Year. He's now down to -170, I think. With those two majors coming up, 2 majors in the bag. Yeah,
I'm slightly surprised at that. I thought you were going to say he's down to like -800. For people that don't know, the Sports Personality of the Year is a ridiculous event. It used to be a huge thing in the UK. It used to get about a third of the country used to watch it. It was on the BBC. It would be like a 2-hour roundup of everything that's happened in sport over the year, happening in December, and there would be a vote from the public. You used to have to send in a postcard 25 years ago. And you can vote on who the best sportsman is, and I don't know. Now there's all kinds of feelings that you can only really win it if you're on a sport that's covered by the BBC, because during the programme they'll have lots of video
no
footage
one can
to
win
show.
it then, unless nobody can win it, because the market is
the BBC don't really cover any sports now.
The darts player is number 2 and the motor race is number 3 favourite, so nobody can win it. The only one who can win it would be Jack Draper if he wins Wimbledon. But where we are now, just go back, -150 you can get Rory McIlroy to win the BBC. Luke Littler, I can't see him in a competition against. If he
I don't really like betting on the Sports Personality. It annoys me, but I'm slightly surprised to hear that he's only -150. I thought he'd be a bit shorter than that.
Especially with those come come as well. Is it a Ryder Cup year this year? No, is it?
Gosh,
no, it won't be a Ryder Cup this year. It must be next year.
I think
so. Yeah, -150 if you want to get on that. Yeah, Luke Littler couldn't beat Keely Hodgkinson in a match bet last year, so she's not going to beat Rory McIlroy, Lando Norris, or Jack Draper, I don't think. So Rory McIlroy -150 if you are based in the UK on that market as well. That is it for the Betting Dojo this week. Neil, thank you very much for your time. What do people got to do? What are they got to do to if they're
going to join us regularly for the dojo, do join us. They should hit subscribe, because if you hit subscribe, you'll be reminded of when we've got another episode. It doesn't cost anything. Just press the button that says subscribe, and it's good for the algorithm. I don't know whether the algorithm likes it, but it's good for us and the algorithm. It means that more people get to discover this program. And if you did like the show, you could just press like. That's free as well. You could just press like, and if you put a comment in the chat box as well, in the comments underneath the video. That helps more people to see it, and we try and reply, and it gives us ideas for future shows and stuff. Sorry if you write a comment and we don't immediately do a 3-hour special on your comment. We can't do all of them, but generally speaking, I noticed that some people put comments and they want us to talk about English horse racing and stuff like that. Obviously, you'll notice we are sponsored by Bet Rivers, your hometown sportsbook. And, they are an American company. We do try and keep the thing a bit more sort of less parochial. We're not going to speak about, apart from the Sports Personality of the Year, we don't spend a lot of time talking about things that half of our viewers don't know anything about. So dance competitions and the Grand National excluded. So we probably won't be spending a lot of time talking about English horse racing, really. But if you do have any questions or anything, we're always happy to see them, and it gives us ideas for future shows.
We got 8 weeks out of Chris McCausland. That was good. No, nobody knows this. As well as the dojo, there is some excellent other shows on the Betting Weekly Studios here on YouTube. 11 o'clock Eastern Time and 1 o'clock every single day. Betting Weekly Live. We'll go through all the biggest sporting events on that day, where all the money is going with Bet Rivers. And this week it is a huge week of European soccer, the Champions League, and Arsenal beat Real Madrid over at the Bernabeu, and also the Europa League, where Tottenham and Manchester United have got to win that competition for their managers and for their fans. New show, Betting Weekly Tennis Live. It's every day, as Monday through to Wednesday, which is 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. across in the UK. We'll be looking at the daily in-play on all the tennis for this week, as well as bracket news, team player news, and developing stories in the world of tennis. We also have Betting Weekly Premier League on Thursday, Betting Weekly Extra Time as well, and Betting Weekly Game Bet Match with myself and Sean Calvert on Tuesday and Wednesday, as well as Betting Weekly WTA with Rory Girani. So the content is coming thick and fast. I think it's over 70 shows we have this month on the channel, and the subscribers are coming thick and fast as well. We're approaching 9,000 subscribers on the channel, so thank you very much for all your support. Keep hitting that subscribe button, keep hitting that like, comment on anything you want. As I say, not only on this show, but most of the shows, one of the handicapping team will get back to you and answer any questions you have. Any ideas you want us to talk about, anything like that, put it through, because we're going through a quiet month now. The world of soccer is coming to an end, but betting never stops, and we have big sport action here as well. Neil, thanks for your time again. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll be back early part of next week. Hopefully you can cash some tickets as well, and keep following the amazing content that the guys are producing on here throughout the week and throughout the months ahead. Take care.